Welcome to the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Join us each week as we sit down with the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management and author of Your Fiscal Physical, Ryan Nelson. Tune in to gain valuable insights and practical tips as we simplify complex financial concepts into digestible lessons. From budgeting to retirement planning, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering financial literacy.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Fiscal Physical Podcast. My name is Aaron. We are coming to you kind of live, but not really, on a, hopefully you guys are checking this out Tuesday mornings when the podcast drops. But it wouldn't be a podcast without my co-host, Ryan Nelson, founder of Alchemy Wealth Management. Ryan, what's good, my man?
Everything's good. What's good with you?
I'm doing well too. It's funny, during these intros, sometimes I think about how do I cross up Ryan with like a different kind of question normally, and like I've been unsuccessful so far.
Oh,
so
there we go.
one of these times we're
Quick on my feet, I guess.
100 plus episodes in, I'll get you one of these times. But today, Ryan, I want to jump right into this episode because it's got a fun name to it. We're going to talk about the Monte Carlo simulation, and I little background on this here. You know, people hear Monte Carlo, they probably think of, oh, that's in Monaco, or they think of casinos, they think of these different things, and honestly, I mean, I wouldn't blame them. I mean, if somebody said, "Oh, what are your thoughts on a Monte Carlo simulation?" I'd probably be like, I don't know. Is that a craps game? Something like that. But, actually, I just had my annual financial planning meeting with Alchemy Wealth Management. Shout out Alchemy. They, this handsome devil of an advisor talked about the Monte Carlo simulation. And
you changed advisors?
Yeah, actually. Yeah, definitely. Didn't know how to tell you. But no, you had mentioned when we were talking about this is what we kind of want. And you explained it a little bit. And I was like, awesome. I kind of get a little bit of the concept, but I'm going to need a whole podcast episode on this. So hopefully you can, give some explanation on this, Ryan, give a little breakdown for our listeners, what it is, why it's important, and we'll just go from there if that works.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, cool. I'm excited. That meeting spurred these thoughts. So what was, out of curiosity, what was your takeaway from the meeting? What's your impression of what a Monte Carlo simulation is?
Yeah, it was like pretty much it was like running the different like simulations of like the possibilities of your future is financial future, I believe. And the interesting piece of it is like, it's like how confident are you in this like financial plan working for you? That might be totally wrong, but that's kind of what I got out of it.
Yeah.
But the piece of it that I was like wanted to dig more into, because you're like, oh, we don't really want 100%, like we want like lower than that. And I was like, wait, why would we want that? So that was really kind of triggered me here to be like, all right, we need to talk about this more here. Perfect. For sure.
So the way I think about these Monte Carlo simulations, so in sort of specific to retirement planning, would be we'd be taking so you start saving a certain amount of money, you want to retire at a certain age, and you want to spend a certain amount of money in retirement. In theory, we could just throw that into a financial calculator and say, hey, are you saving enough money to give yourself enough money by that? Are you going to accumulate enough money by that retirement age to be able to spend that much money per month, right? And so in theory, the calculation of how much to save would be a really, really simple just calculation. Where it gets a lot more complicated, though, is there's variables, and we don't know what we're making all these assumptions in your financial plan, and we don't know which assumptions are going to be right, which assumptions are going to be wrong. Probably all the assumptions are going to be wrong and off to some degree, right? But we don't know which ones will be off by how much. And so, when we start calculating how much you need to save for retirement, it starts getting a little more complicated when you start looking at all these different variables. And we say, well, are you going to get 7% returns? And maybe you say, yeah, that sounds right. And it's like, okay, you're going to get exactly 7% returns every single year for the rest of your life. It's like, well, no, I'm not going to get exactly that. I'm going to get 8% returns one year, 4% returns another year, plus 40% one year, negative 20% one year, positive 1, negative 12, positive 8. But then it's like, well, what if that big negative 20% return came the first year when you started retirement, or if it was the last year of your life?
Sure.
What if that big 40% positive return came the first year of retirement or the last year of your life? So there's an issue with what's called sequence of returns, and it has a really, really big impact on if your plan is successful. So you can start to see there's all these different like struggles, right? And so the beauty of what a Monte Carlo simulation does is it can take multiple different, oftentimes and usually thousands of different scenarios and sort of simulate them all simultaneously. So now, again, specific to retirement planning, what we would do is we'd look at your situation. So we'd say, Aaron, if you're saving X number of dollars, and you want to retire at age, 65 and spend X number of dollars in retirement, what's the probability that you'll have a successful retirement? And so now, instead of just looking at a fixed, like, oh, you're going to get 7% returns every year for the rest of your life, now we can simulate thousands of different market scenarios. So maybe there's really good market returns in one of these scenarios. Another scenario might be really bad market returns. A third scenario might be good returns at the beginning, followed by bad returns. A fourth scenario might be really bad returns at the beginning, followed by good returns. There might be a scenario with high inflation, a scenario with low inflation, a scenario with low inflation and good returns, right? Like you can see how we could pull together, again, thousands of different scenarios, right? And take a look. So now we can be a lot more confident in your plan. We can say, okay, now, Aaron, if you said you wanted to retire, save this amount of money, retire at this age, and spend this amount of money, now we can look at these 1,000, let's call it just 1,000. We can look at these 1,000 different scenarios, and we can see how many of these scenarios do you have a successful retirement. So what we would define by a successful retirement in this terms would be how many times in these scenarios, these hypothetical little simulations, do you run out of money before you pass away, or do you not run out of money before you pass away? So if you do not run out of money, we'd call that a quote unquote successful retirement. If you do run out of money, we'd call that an unsuccessful retirement, right? So let's pretend we run these 1,000 simulations, and in 850 of them, it shows in the model show that you do not run out of money.
Perfect.
That would mean 850 theoretical, hypothetical scenarios out of 1,000. You did not run out of money, or you had a successful retirement. So 850 out of 1,000 is an 85% probability of success. So in this scenario, we would say, okay, based on your current savings rate, the age you told us you wanted to retire, and the amount of money you wanted to spend in retirement, we think you'd have about an 85% probability of success. Or again, in other terms, 850 out of those 1,000 scenarios, you had a successful retirement where you didn't run out of money, and the other 150 out of 1,000 scenarios, we would have had to make some tweak to your financial plan throughout your retirement to ensure that you didn't run out of money.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. That actually really paints a picture of like, cool, like even those 150 where I run out, like would run out, it's not really your run out, you're just having to make changes to it, if you will. Okay.
So if you said, hey, I want to spend $10,000 a month in retirement, well, if we start heading down the direction of one of those 150 scenarios where it shows we're going to be kind of running short on money, we might have to say, oh, let's make a tweak to your retirement plan. The earlier we can make it, the smaller change you have to make, right? So if you think about your car, if you're driving down a path, if you just barely are veering off track, you just have to make a little micro correction to the steering wheel to get you right back in the center of the road, right? Now, if you start going way in the wrong direction, you have to make a harder kind of tweak to the steering wheel, right? So the further off track you start getting, the further you have to tweak the steering wheel. So the sooner you can acknowledge that you're heading off track and you just make these small tweaks, you can again, get by and fix this situation with a small tweak. So if we can catch the issue early, we may say, hey, you wanted to spend $10,000 a month. We're going to have to reduce your spending down to $9,700. And maybe that gets you back on track, right? Whereas if we don't catch it early and it compounds, it might get to a point where we have to cut your spending to 9 or 8 or 7 or 6,000. And going from 10,000 a month to 6,000 a month is really, really hard.
Right.
Going from 10,000 a month to 9,700 is a nuisance. It's an inconvenience, but it's probably doable. So we'd want to catch those situations as quickly as possible. And these Monte Carlo simulations help us do that while we're maintaining it through your retirement. It helps us do that as well.
Cool.
But you touched on something else there where, one of the things I like to talk about with our clients and what you alluded to is like myself as a human, like I think as I think about retirement, as I start planning for retirement, I think to myself like, man, when I retire, I want 100% probability of success. I do not want to run out of money in retirement. Like once I pull that trigger and I retire, I don't want to find out 30 years later I'm going to be running out of money. Like I want to have 100% probability of success. The problem with that is for me to get 100% probability of success, that means in all 1,000 theoretical scenarios, they're successful. So now you take 1,000 theoretical hypothetical scenarios You're taking the absolutely worst theoretical scenario and you're saying, how do I make this successful without having to make any tweaks to it ever in retirement? And so, the market's crashing, it's terrible, high inflation, right? All these things, it's the worst scenario. And you're saying, how do I build a plan where even that one scenario is successful with me not having to make a single tweak in retirement? So you can imagine how conservative your plan would have to be to allow that worst case scenario to still be successful. And so what it would end up meaning is if I was to plan for that, I'd have to work until I'm like 80, 90 years old and save every penny I ever make, right? And so that's not realistic. So in real life, we have this tug of war between spending money and enjoying life today with saving money and making future errands successful in the future, right? And so where's that balance? That's like one of the hardest things for most people is to find that balance in life of, am I saving enough money now or am I saving too much money? Like everybody knows, hey, everybody has this story about some family member or friend who unfortunately passed away young in life and didn't get to enjoy, they worked their butts off and they never got to enjoy life, right?
Yep.
And so we all can learn from that story and say, man, we need to enjoy and appreciate life today. But then on the flip side of that, there's plenty of people we've ran into who are living paycheck to paycheck. They're elderly. They don't have the quality of life they deserve. And so we should also learn from that scenario, right? So there's always this tug of war where if we spend every penny we ever make and we enjoy life to the fullest today, we're not setting future us up for success. And that's not a balanced life. The flip side of that coin is if we save every penny we ever make and we don't enjoy our life today, that's also not setting us up for a balanced life, right? So there's this tug of war and there's this line, and it's really hard to find that line of how much do I need to be saving to both enjoy life today and set future me up for success. And these Monte Carlo simulations help us determine where that line is.
Right.
So we don't want 100% probability of success.
Sure.
On the other side of that coin is we certainly don't want a 0% probability of success in retirement either, right? And so we can use these tools to start working with clients to start gauging what percentage of their theoretical simulations are successful, figure out what their probability of success is, and then at Alchemy, we have a targeted probability of success we want to work with our clients. And if they come back at a higher probability of success, so let's hypothetically say we're shooting for this client an 80% probability of success, and they come back with a 90% probability of success. What that means is they're almost oversaving, or their retirement goal is not aggressive enough. So we can start moving their retirement age up so they could retire earlier and enjoy life more, right?
Sure.
Or they could start spending more money today to increase the quality of their life. So either way, we're taking tweaks to their plan that increase quality of life today or in the near future. Or there's other clients who, if we're targeting an 80% probability of success, maybe their current probability of success is, say, 40%. That's an indication that, hey, we're maybe spending a little too much now, not putting enough in away for the future. We need to increase our savings, right? So it's what we find is one of the most challenging questions for clients is finding that balance. And am I saving enough or am I saving too much? And this is like an objective measure to start to get an idea of where you fall on that. And if you need to start saving more, how much more? And it's all using this Monte Carlos or these hypothetical scenarios.
That's awesome. Do you do that for pretty much every one of your clients? Is that like something that you run for everybody?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And do you run it often? I'm just curious. Do you run it often, like yearly, or it probably depends on the individual naturally. But
so the way that it works is so like if I was, theoretically, it's not going to make a difference. Like if we ran it today and then again tomorrow, right? Like when we'd want to be running, like almost rerunning it, so to speak, is when there's a change to the inputs. So if you start earning more money, there's a change to an input, we would want to be reevaluating things.
Okay.
If you start saving more money, or let's say something happens, you get laid off or work, or you have a kid, or an unexpected medical bill pops up, and so you say, hey, Ryan, we got to reduce our spending. Cool. There's a change to the input, we would want to be reevaluating, right? So I think that's the best way of thinking about it is if there's a change to an input, then we'd want to be reevaluating. Yep. And so then the question becomes like, how often does that happen, right? Like the cheesy example I always use with our clients is like, think of us as a primary care physician. Like we want to see you at least once a year to do like an annual checkup, right? What we call our fiscal physical, a checkup on your finances. But then how many times are you going to see your primary care physician this year? Like, you might be super healthy, smooth sailing, and not see them again until next year's physical. But then there's going to be other years where you're sick, you're trying to figure something out. It feels like you're in your primary care physician's office every week, right? So it's kind of the same thing with us. We have some clients where, man, some years it's just like, yeah, there wasn't any big changes. We were just steady. Jobs were the same. We didn't get any big pay raises or pay decreases. It was just kind of the same, right? And then the next year for that same client might be like, yeah, we had a kid. We moved states. We bought a new house. We changed jobs because we moved states. We got an inheritance. It's like, oh my God, you're like, and I'm seeing those, we're rerunning things every single week for them. Like, so it really is just dependent. We don't know how often those inputs will change.
Sure.
So not the best answer to your question, but it may be more as like as needed, more so than a standardized process. But I would say at least once a year.
Yeah.
And no less than once a year, but oftentimes more than once a year.
Sure. No, I like the primary care because I go once a year to my primary care physician. I'm like, cool. Like, do I need to come more? And they're like, no, you're doing good. Or, hey, let's work on your cholesterol, whatever it might be, these certain kind of things. But I really like you put it in here too. You kind of gave the reference of like, it's like a weather forecast. And I think that really hit home with me too. It's like, because most of the time, like if I see like, hey, we're supposed to get, 60% of the area is getting snow, probably going to get snow. And so you can kind of plan for it. But like, hey, like, if it's supposed to be sunny all week and then randomly there's a rainy day in there, you're like, what the heck? Where did that come from? Yep. Like, it's like, hey, you can't predict everything, but it really gives you a good idea of how to plan and how to adjust your plans. You can kind of think of that in your financial plan as well, too. Like, okay, like you mentioned, you're at 90%. Okay, could we move up your age a year, whatever it might be? So I really think that hits home about what this success rate really means and like don't take it as gospel.
Yep, exactly.
I think that's a big thing as well.
Exactly. So none of this stuff, when anytime we're looking forward into the future, whether it's your finances or the weather, right? We can't know with certainty exactly. And so, similarly, if we think you have an 80% probability of success, that's good to know. Just like if we think there's an 80% probability of snow tomorrow, if I'm trying to go drive over the pass tomorrow and there's an 80% probability of snow tomorrow, but no snow on the forecast today, it might make more sense for me to go today, right? Yeah. Now, does that mean it's guaranteed to snow tomorrow? Absolutely not. Right. So absolutely. I like kind of thinking about it in a similar vein. Most of us kind of, I think sometimes we think of this financial planning as like more exact, and it is really all about probabilities. Whereas with weather, we already sort of intuitively know that because we've been burned enough times where we see, oh, it's supposed to be snowing, or it's going to rain tomorrow. Oh, it never rained. Right. Yeah. Or it says it's raining right now. It's not raining. So I'd say, just think of it as probabilities, just like a weather forecast.
Cool. I like it, man. That was awesome. Anything else to say on this topic here, Ryan, before we kind of wrap up?
Yeah, I think we covered the main points for sure.
Yeah. I think so as well too. So if anybody wants to sound smart out there, like you can talk about your Monte Carlo simulation, or go get it checked and see if you get a financial plan and such too. And maybe you haven't done one of these with your financial advisor. Maybe just ask the question too, like, hey, I would assume they're probably doing something in this case, but at least you have a little bit, just enough to be dangerous, if you will, when you kind of go in there for sure. So
and they may not use this. I mean, Monte Carlos is like a fairly technical term, right? So it may not. They may be doing something like this behind the scenes and may not be aware of it, but also it would probably be good for you to know if these types of, if they're using these types of tools, and if so, like where you stand on this.
Yep, absolutely. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it, Ryan, as always. And we'll go ahead and take a quick pause here. Be back on the other side with some personal stuff. Everybody hang tight.
And now, to put the personal in personal finance.
Welcome back, everybody, to this side of the Fiscal Physical podcast. Appreciate you hanging tight with us here. Ryan, I got a question for you, and hopefully it's one that will get some engagement as well with the listeners. I feel like there's movies made about this question, and everybody talks about these things too. So I'm curious what your thought process is on this. So my question to you is, what is your favorite family vacation memory? I'm not sure if you guys took vacations as kids or just like a family memory of like a trip or something that you might have in your memory bank there.
Yeah, there's a couple. Definitely, we always went on a lot of trips. One we went on this trip, like it was a road trip to a bunch of different national parks.
Oh, cool.
I was young, so I don't even remember all the details, right? But we went through like the Dakotas and stuff, and there were all these like prairie dogs,
Nice.
which I just loved. They're like these, just so like cute and like little, and so yeah, I loved seeing the prairie dogs again. I don't even know how old I was when we went on that trip, but yeah, that was a good one. And then a second sort of independent one was like camping, and I still do and have always loved like playing with the campfire, just like making it bigger and poking it.
Sure,
and
absolutely. It's great.
Doing the classic fire tending stuff, and I can't remember. Now that I think about this, I think I think my parents were like going for a walk or something. Why they would leave me unattended with a fire now questions my
arise.
Yeah. There's like some questionable parenting there, I think. But they, so when they were gone, I'd like put all these. I basically like found this like almost like dead tree. It was just like all the pine needles were still on it,
Nice, yeah.
But it was like all the pine needles were still attached to the branch. So it was just like this branch full of dead pine needles. And so I just like put it on the fire, and it just like like a 20-foot like high fire. So yeah, that was fun. So that was fun. But those are probably two that come to mind quickly. What about for you?
No, that's good. I'm glad. It's always those funny ones that you're like, wait, these funny things happened like on this trip, for example. For myself, same thing. Growing up, we had like a big like Ford Aerostar van, and so it was like multiple different rows, and we had I'm one of 4 kids, so there was like 6 of us sometimes that were traveling. And one time we took a trip. At the time, my dad was looking to open up a restaurant, and so he had to go get this training in Austin, Texas. Okay, just kind of where the franchise was located. So we're like, hey, you know what? Let's do like a family road trip down there. And so we did it, broke it up in different spots. We actually stayed in Reno one of the nights, which is funny. We drove down from Idaho through Nevada to Las Vegas, then over. We stopped in like, I don't know. We did this whole trip, but when we were in Reno, the funny thing is, it was just a blast. We always had like books on tape and like fun things that we were listening to, or songs and stuff. And we'd stop in different places. We weren't in a hurry, but we spent the night in a hotel in Reno, and I got like a really bad crink in my neck. Okay, and I was like probably like 9 at the time and didn't really know what it was, but I was like convinced I needed to go to like the doctor because like I couldn't like move my neck. It was like. And we actually ate at a buffet here in Reno, and my sisters didn't want to like hang out with me because I was walking around like with like my head like hunched over, and I just looked like an idiot.
That's funny.
But it hurt really bad. But it was just a super fun trip. We ended up going to the Grand Canyon well. Like, I went down, spent a couple days in Phoenix, and just had a bunch of fun. And I just remember that trip, like, it was a lot of hours in the car. Like, a lot of hours. And then when we drove home as well, too. But got to see some awesome country, and it was just a lot of fun, like, to go visit these different places that you just, like, maybe have heard about, like, growing up in a small town in Idaho, and actually get to, like, go visit state capitals and such, too. Like, I remember we went and we stopped in Boise, saw the state capitol in Idaho, went down to Reno, and then I didn't know at the time. I learned that state capital's Carson City, right down the road. Went to that one. We ended up going to Phoenix. We went to one other one as well too. It was fun. Had a good time. But anyway, that's my favorite kind of family vacation memory there. But I'm curious to see out there with the listeners. Hopefully, this ignites something in the back of the brain where you guys kind of think about those things and what was good, what was bad about it, but what's memorable overall. So awesome. With that in mind, here, Ryan, I think we've covered everything we need to, and I'll turn it over to you, my man.
As always, stay the course.
Thank you for joining us for the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Until next time, happy listening. And as always, stay the course. If you have a question or topic suggestions, please email us at podcast@alchemywealth.com. If you enjoyed today's discussion, subscribe to the podcast to ensure you never miss an episode. And consider leaving us a rating and review on your favorite platform. This helps other listeners like you find the show. For more resources, you can visit Alchemy Wealth Management's website at www.alchemywealth.com or find your Fiscal Physical, the book, on Amazon. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention that personal finance is just that, personal. Please don't take anything we say as advice. The preceding content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not an offer or a solicitation, nor should it be construed or relied upon for tax, legal, or investment advice. It doesn't consider your personal financial situation or objectives and may not be suitable for you.